Sometimes in life, we look up and find ourselves doing things that we never imagined we'd be doing. For example, even though I went to college to study chemical engineering, here I am today working in the human resources department of an assisted living management company. I never thought I'd be doing this. I wonder if the Apostle Paul ever felt the same way. You see, he grew up in a very devout religious family. He was a Jew, and he was very zealous for following the rules of his religion. He was a good Jewish young man. And if you and I had known him back then, we probably would have described him as a religious fanatic. He was extremely zealous for the traditions of his ancestors, to the point of even standing by when people who broke those laws and broke those traditions were killed. But here Paul is, many, many years later, hanging out with non-Jewish people, with Gentiles. And for him, that was a big, big deal, because he'd grown up being taught that Gentiles were unclean. Gentiles were dogs. They were impure. You didn't associate with people like that. But Paul, through a dramatic encounter with Jesus on the Damascus Road, becomes known as the apostle to the Gentiles. And in the book of Galatians, this issue of the Gentiles coming into the early church presented the first real crisis for the early church. Because up until this point, it had been considered just really a sect of Judaism, a branch of the Jewish faith, because all of its early leaders and founders were Jewish. But now these non-Jewish people start becoming attracted to the message and start coming into the faith. And there are all these questions about, well, what kind of Jesus rules do they have to follow? Do they have to follow the rules like circumcision and dietary restrictions and observing special sacred Jewish holidays? And Paul's like, no, they're not Jewish. And so the issue of diversity comes into play. And in verses 15 and 16 of chapter 2, Paul says, "We who are Jews by birth and not sinful Gentiles know that a person is not justified by observing the law, but by faith in Jesus Christ." So it becomes the opportunity for him to really formulate the crux of the gospel, that we are saved not through observing the law, but through faith in Jesus. And that is wonderful news today. Amen.